You are watching. Pause. We pause for a second or two. How do we keep life coherent when so much is changing? This is episode 243. Nuclear sites bombed. In today's episode, we are pausing and taking a moment to recognize that we are presented with some distressing news right now. So down in Iran, in the Middle East, they have a number of different nuclear sites, nuclear facilities, both with uranium and plutonium. And right now, some of those sites are being bombed by Israel. So, in today's episode, we are dedicating some time to ourselves, to simply stating out loud what is actually being done right now, what kind of decisions are being made, and have some time to actually ourselves become clear how we feel about it. And we will also look a bit at what this means to us, that nuclear sites are being bombed. Okay, so what is the most important thing to state here? It could be that making that decision to bomb, to actually drop bombs on nuclear facilities, on uranium and plutonium facilities, it is decisions to take great risks. What it comes down to is that we now are presented with news that great powers are taking great risks. So, regardless of what we, each and every one of us, what we think about this being done on a political level, the act in itself, the decisions being made in themselves, are full of risk. We all feel distressed by this being done. It is distressing to see. No matter what we think about it, it is distressing. The emotional situation that we're talking about today in connection with this is our long-term situation. It is for those times when we think about our long-term future. It is about when we make plans, but also for when we worry or feel a sense of urgency about our future. That is our long-term situation. So in today's episode, we spend some time with reflecting upon how we feel about our future now when nuclear facilities are being bombed. Does this in any way change the way we feel about our future? So we will try to put aside politics in this, if it's possible at all, and simply look at emotionally how it feels to have this being done, to have nuclear facilities being bombed. What does it mean to us on almost a symbolic level? So, you are a person, I am a person, and each of us are seeing the news. Okay, now nuclear facilities are being bombed. And no matter how much knowledge we have about the potential risks or pitfalls in this, it does not look good. It does not feel good to have nuclear facilities being bombed. As a symbol, it feels very risky. It feels like these decisions being made are filled with risk, extreme risk taking. So when we see this as regular people, what we will feel is something as simple as, okay, now we are globally creating a culture of risk-taking. Now, globally, we are creating a culture of bombing nuclear sites. If one party is taking such extreme risks, why would not other parties do the same? Emotionally, that is. The sort of global culture being created. And that's where we are today. So then our long-term situation, us thinking about our future, us worrying, us feeling a sense of urgency about our future, it comes down to this sort of culture being created by these decisions. That we now live in times when great risks are being taken. So probably we will see other actors looking at other risks to take and view them, perhaps, I'm speculating here, perhaps not, and view those risky options as more viable today than they seemed before nuclear sites were being bombed. A risky idea might seem less risky today than it did a couple of weeks ago. That might be a potential consequence of this being done. A sort of risk-taking culture. And with taking greater risks, many nuances ought to be lost in the process. Taking great risk implicitly means that we need to paint with a broader paintbrush, being less careful with details. Being more about thinking that something is good enough or something is exciting or something is enough. Now we must do something, and then we take greater risk just to have something being done. So it could be that this piece of news of nuclear facilities being bombed is bigger than just the nuclear sites being bombed, because they are symbols. They are symbols of risk-taking. They are symbols of crossing lines. Up until a week ago or a couple of weeks ago, crossing that line was not something people viewed as viable, not as they do today. So if such a symbolic line has been crossed, in theory, what is stopping other lines from being crossed? Perhaps less today than a couple of weeks ago. And it also creates this sort of distance between people. Because some people might have greater technical knowledge as to how dangerous this actually is. Will the radioactive material be sort of limited to the locality of the site, or will it spread with air or water or the like? So this act also comes in between people, comes in between those with technical knowledge and those with less technical knowledge, and perhaps then more prone to letting their fantasy run wild. So this act is not only creating a culture of risk-taking, but also it sort of comes in between people, those with technical knowledge and those with less technical knowledge. And that's also unfortunate. And then also it raises the logical next fear, worrying about our long-term future, that now when nuclear sites have been bombed and some sort of normalization has been made about sort of releasing radioactive material into the open air, then the natural next fear becomes, will this lower the threshold of nuclear arms being used? I don't know. Perhaps, perhaps not. At least what we can say with certainty that many people ought to be more afraid of it. More people ought to worry about their long-term future now, worry about nuclear technology, nuclear weapons, nuclear sites, nuclear waste. These are scary stuff. Radioactive materials are scary stuff. And also for those of us old enough to have experienced accidents and nuclear being used, it is scary in one way. And for those of us who have not experienced such a thing, it might be scary in another way. So this act also comes in between generations. Some generations reacting in one way, other generations reacting in another way. It comes in between generations, potentially, which also is unfortunate and something to deal with accordingly, if at all possible at times. But the main thing with today's episode is simply to state that it is regrettable that we are in this situation right now. It is distressing, and there is no way to feel good about this. It's just tough to witness, tough to think about, no matter who we are. It's unfortunate. And it affects us. It affects how we feel about making plans long term. It's not everything, but it is a piece of our plans making. It is. That's it for today. Thank you.